So, good day everyone. So, this will be the first online discussion in our subject matter, the language education research and research in mathematics. So, last time we've had our first online discussion in which we've discussed about the nature, the components, the definition of research, and also we've discussed the coverage of our subject, which is the syllabus. So, we've mentioned also there the last time we have a meeting that the research contains 5 chapters. So now we will proceed to the research chapter 1. So research chapter 1 is also called the problem and its setting. So the chapter 1 describes the problem and its setting, and it is subdivided into the following headings. So we have the introduction, the setting of the study, the theoretical conceptual framework, the statement of the problem, the assumptions of the study, the hypothesis, the significance of the study, the scope, the limitation and limitations of the study, and the definition of terms. So let us now proceed to the first, which is the introduction. So in introduction, we have here a sample title, which is the social and cultural implications of name calling in the Philippines. So, in your introduction, it provides the general information about the topic chosen. So, you will discuss where and when your topic originated. So, for example, so here in our title, you may discuss first the social implications of the name calling in the Philippines, and then you may proceed to the cultural implications of name calling in the Philippines, and then you can mix it up. So why was the researcher interested in the phenomenon? So you will discuss also the reason why you became interested in this kind of research, and what is the theory behind your topic? Is the topic you chose is in need of in-depth study, or the reasons why you come up to this kind of topic? And also, you need to include the role, the benefits, and its importance in the society. So why do you need to conduct a study? So now, in introduction, it is the initial part of a research paper and the part that a reader is likely to read first. So of course, your introduction is the first chapter in which the reader first read. So in introduction also, it defines and it includes the notions and other information required for understanding the paper are presented and listed here. So it also include here the context of your paper so the readers can understand why you have created it. In introduction also, it is in writing the introduction, it will be set out your rationale, and it is the beginning of your research paper. Interesting and engage with your readers form the first line. So what to include in your introduction? So first, you need to introduce your topic. Create some context and background. So you make some research about your topic, and you introduce by stating the context and the background or the reason why you will conduct that certain topic. Tell your reader about the research you plan to carry out. You expand your context and the background, and then state your rationale. So you have to explain why there is an in-depth need to study or to conduct a research to that certain topic, and explain why your research is important. So is there any significance, or is there any significant contributions you may include in the community, and then state your hypothesis. You don't have to state exactly what is written in your hypothesis. You just need to make some explanation or give the reader a gist of your hypothesis. And how to write your introduction. Number 1 is first define and explain concepts, and then start with the quotation. So you may research, or you may find an article or a journal or a news that you can include in your introduction, and then communicate your structure. So for example, here he or she stated his or her introduction by stating, "Did you know that there are currently over 2.3 million Americans incarcerated for their crimes?" So you may start your introduction by stating a question or a quotation or an issue or a news or etc. And then proceed to the main problem by introducing your or the data gathered through the websites or through the journals and etc. So after the introduction, we have the setting of the study. So this specifically gives information regarding the location of the study, which may include the country, the province, the city, or the institution where the study was conducted. So for example, here, this study was conducted in Centra Escolar University, Manila, and here he or she stated the what kind of school is CEU, which is the private institution, and he or she stated also the structural component of the school and also how many students they have and etc. So in stating your setting of the study, you have to include all the information of your settings. So after the setting of the study, we have the theoretical conceptual framework. So the in theoretical conceptual framework, it presents the theoretical basis of the study, which may be an established principle of the theory. So the conceptual framework shows the processes followed in the conduct of the research. So for example, in the theoretical framework, a study on students' oral communication needs with the goal planning a course to address these needs may adapt to for this is the Paul Nations model of course design process. So in a Paul Nation considers a course design as a process of consisting a sub process. So this process is illustrated in this figure showing a model course design which this study adopted as a paradigm. So in this figure, it consists of three outside circles. As you can see here, we have the outside circles and the subdivided inner circle. So both circles make up the curriculum. So the inner circle, we have the subdivided into content and sequencing, as you can see here, the format and presentation, and the monitoring and reassessing. So this represents the syllabus. So the outer circles, we have the principles, we have the environment, and we have the needs. So this represent the practical and theoretical considerations that guide the process of course production. These considerations constitute the sub-process of the design. So in stating or making your theoretical framework, you have to make a figure, and then under your figure, you have to explain what is inside your figure, just like what I've mentioned. Next, in the conceptual framework. So one of the most commonly used paradigm to illustrate the process followed is the conduct of study is the IPO, which is the input, the process, and the output model for the program designing by Lewis and Smith. So the IPO model comprises of three elements. So we have the recognition that all organizations operate in an environment that can influence the success or failure of the organization. So we have second one is we have to identify organization mission, and the third one is to transform the process that involves output in the organization from the external environment throughout or the actual techniques and outputs represented by the product and service provided to the members of the external environment. So in this study, the input consisted of the students' grades in basic English. And then these data were assessed in the process of or through yielding the output, which is the academic performance of the student in English. So the output would be the basis for actions that would be taken to improve the English instruction in the university. So after the theoretical conceptual framework, we have now the statement of the problem. So this usually stated in a one broad statement followed by specific questions that relate to the problem. So this answers the questions when put together provide the answer to the general program. So in making the statement of the problem, you begin with a broad statement expressing the general concern of the study, ask a series of 3 or more questions related to the general problem, arrange questions in logical order, and avoid yes or no questions. So these are the steps that you might consider in writing your statement of the problem. So step 1, you need to provide the background of the research. And then step 2, describe the relevance of the issue. And then step 3, present the key research questions of the paper. So in another way, we have here to identify first the problem and then ask questions about the background and the relevance and the objectives. So in our example, don't forget in writing the statement of the problem, you have to include or write an introduction. So in here, to answer the above cited problem, an answer of the following will be sought. So for example, what is the extent of the study habits of the respondents in terms of reading? So as you can see here, in our step 1, you have a background of the research, or you may use the problem. So in his or her first question, he or she asked first, what are the variables that might contribute or that might affect the study habits of the respondents in terms of reading, the writing, note-taking, and the study time? Next is the question of what is the academic performance of level 2 nursing students in terms of grade point average. So now, he or she asked about the background of the problem. So these are the variables that we need to identify at the end of our research. And then he or she gave a background information or background questions with regards to the topic. Next is which among the variables significantly predicts the study habits and academic performance of the respondents considering the following moderator variables. Now, what is the relevant or what is the relationship of these variables to the variables in number 1? So maybe the age or gender affects the study habits of the respondents in terms of reading or etc. After identifying the relevance, the background, and problem, now you proceed to the main objective of your research. Is there any significance between study habits and academic performance of the respondents? So this is the main point why you conduct the research, to identify if there is a significant relationship between the problem and the another problem of your topic. So that's how you gonna create or write your statement of the problem. So after the statement of the problem, we have now the assumptions of the study. So the assumption of the study, this is some extraneous factors in the study are beyond the control of the researcher. So she can only assume that his or her study was conducted under required conditions. So for example, she has to assume that the questionnaires were answered honestly and that the records provided by the certain sources are true and accurate. So this is how you will gonna state your assumptions of the study. The study assumes that, so you need to specify number 1, the students' grades in basic English are accurate representation of their English language performance. Next, number 2, the English teachers faithfully follow the grading system guidelines prescribed by the university in computing their students' grades. And number 3, the population used in the study is reflective of the entire population taking basic English. So again, always remember that in assumptions of the study, you can only assume. You can only make an assumptions what will be the end or what will be the result of your study. So after the assumptions of the study, we have now the hypothesis. So in hypothesis, so these are the statements drawn regarding the outcome of the study before the conclusion is reached. So this is defined as an educated guess or a tentative answer to the question. So this is your tentative prediction of the results of the research formulated on the basis of knowledge of the underlying theory of implications from the literature review. So we have two types of hypothesis. This can be classified either as a null or the alternative hypothesis. So when we are talking about the null hypothesis, this is a negative statement. So always remember when we are talking about the null hypothesis, this is a negative statement which indicated the absence of the relationship, correlation between two variables. So this is an absence of the significant difference between the populations of two groups of people or objects, or an absence of difference between or among the means of two or more groups with respect to a particular variable. So we have here an example of the null hypothesis. So there is no significant differences in the perceptions of respondents regarding the social and cultural implications of their name-calling practices. So again, when we say null hypothesis, this is a negative. So what makes the example negative? So this is by indicating that there is no significant differences. So while in alternative hypothesis, we usually called this as the research hypothesis. So this states the presence of a significant relationship between the independent and the dependent variables, or the presence of a significant difference between two means or two proportions. So for example, there is a significant differences in the perceptions of respondents regarding the social and cultural implications of their name calling practices. So in our example, we just remove the word no, which makes the statement negative, to make it as our positive statement. So after the hypothesis, we have now the significance of the study. So in the significance of the study, this states what the study covers and its boundaries. So the researcher must justify his or her choice of problem by showing its practical importance, especially to the intended readers of the study. So, for example, we have here an example of significance of the study. So, where is that? Now, so in stating each subdivided chapters in chapter 1, you have to include or make an introduction. You need to introduce what is significance of the study, or you introduce your topic. So now, here in our example, the results of the study will be beneficial to the following. So he or she included the respondents, and then you have to explain what will be the benefits of the respondents from your research. Next is for the teachers and mentors. Again, you have to include, or you have to explain what are the benefits that the teachers or mentors may get to your research. So the guidance is staff, the parents, the future researchers, and etc. So that is the significance of the study. After the significance of the study, we have the scope, the limitation, and limitations of the study. So this states what the study covers and fix these boundaries. So for example, so the respondents of your study will only focus on female ages 20 to 30 years old. So we will discuss that later on. So in defining the limitations, this specifies certain constraints in the study which are essential but which the researcher has no control. So, for example, we have here an example of the scope and limitation of the study. Again, you have to write first an introduction in your scope and limitation of the study. So just like what I've said earlier, what are the scope of your study and the limitation of your study. So for example, here, the researcher only focused on the 181 randomly selected college students with which comprise 25% of the total population. And then he or she also included here the aside from population, the academic year, who are the respondents, and etc. So after the scope and the limitation and limitations of the study, we have now the last subdivided chapter of the problem in its setting, which is the definition of terms. So it is necessary to clarify terms used in the study by defining them contextually or operationally. So it may also include newly invented or coined words, technical terms, or terms with special meaning. So this is included in the chapter 1 because this is necessary to clarify terms in the study, and and then you need to define the terms based on how you use it in your research. So the definition of terms, so these are the guidelines on how to make a definition of terms. Number 1 is you have to arrange words in alphabetical order and then underline words followed by period, and then state definition in a complete sentence and document the sources of definitions in the end notes. So these are the content of the chapter 1, which is the problem and its setting. So number 1, introduction. Number 2, setting of the study, theoretical conceptual framework, statement of the problem, assumptions of the study, hypothesis, significance of the study, scope, the limitation and limitations of the study, and definition of terms. So that's all for today's discussion. So I hope you learned something about the chapter 1. So if you have any questions regarding our topic today, don't hesitate to ask it in the comment section below or in our official group chat. So if you have already the approved title, you may proceed in writing your chapter 1. So the deadline of chapter 1 will be announced to our official group chat. So again, as I've mentioned in our official GC, I will send the link of the quiz and it will only answerable for 30 minutes only. So make sure you secure your internet connection. So thank you everyone. So I hope you learned something and see you in our next discussion. God bless. So please make sure to finish the recorded discussion for your performance activity. So for your performance activity, answer the following questions. This is consist of 50 points. Put your answer in the comment section below by the following the format. So again, you need to put first your name, your major, and your answer. So again, in answering the performance activity, please put your answers to the comment section below of this recorded video by following the format. Put your name first, your major, and your answer. So, the deadline of submission is on June 2, 2023, 8 o'clock p.m. only. So, these are the questions. Number 1, how to write your introduction. What are the important details you have to include in writing your research introduction? Next is, what is the difference between null and alternative hypothesis, and give examples. And next, what to include in the significance of the study. So again, please follow very carefully the format on how to answer your performance activity by putting your name, your major, and your answer to the comment section below. So these are the questions. So again, thank you very much. See you in our next discussion.